Scott Redler, Chief Strategic Officer at T3Live.com. Welcome to today's recap and look ahead. So market gapped up. First, 10, 20 minutes, they tried to hit it down, which is what they always do. On Friday, they had a little bit more success than today, but still, it was definitely a very specific type of trade. I think we were up like 14, 15 handles, pulled in around 7, went back towards the highs, and then did a whole lot of nothing. So at this point, whether you're trying to look at the overall broader indices, neutral or bullish or bearish, I think, it's neutral with just buying extremes and selling extremes and making sure your stock selection in the middle is pretty perfect. Either pretty perfect or give yourself weeks, months, and years. But obviously we don't do that. Anyway, let's just go to the chart of the S&P cash. Here you go. This was, your 2-year range we broke above in July to come back and retest it. Along the way, you've had tradable swing moves. First one was when we broke above, this 2120 area. Then the next one when you had this head and shoulders top to break below, 2165 to retest. And then if you remember, we had that wedge formation down here, pop back up, and then another wedge formation here to pop back below. And lo and behold, if that doesn't look like anything to you, or it doesn't mean anything to you, maybe you haven't watched my videos because I've gone over each and every one of these moves. Looks like a Swiss cheese here, but it means something, I guess. So overall now, you still have that red dog reversal where, if you sold here, you were able to buy back in the hole when this 2118 was reclaimed. Gap up Friday, sold. Gap up today, not quite sold, but doesn't mean you could be, all in long or short. Again, you have to be kind of mixed here. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. At this point, some guys have, longs and shorts. So the news this morning was Netflix. Netflix had a big gap up. I think it was 121 at the highs after hours yesterday. It was at 120 in the morning, and then gave you, a quick pull-in. So if you were really fast, you could have made a few dollars on the pull-in, and then if you were really fast, you could have made some money on the long side, or you could have got chopped up if you weren't perfect. That's why in my note I said probably better off to wait a few days and let it settle down. All in all, though, big gap up. Big gap up, pro gap. So at this point, what do we know? This is what you have to trade against. How many days will it take to absorb this huge gap? Okay, does it all of a sudden tomorrow trade below this 116.50 and start filling the gap, and then we have to wait for a pivot and do this choppy, crazy action, or do we get a few inside days and then at some point it takes this out to go back towards the highs? We don't know, except for it did hold in there pretty well. This is pretty well. They couldn't sell it down. I had one decent trade in it. I'm not long overnight. Was here. Okay, you had your the first move, which I guess it's hard to see here, was down. Okay, I guess you have to maybe go to the 3-minute chart. Let's go to the 1-minute chart. Okay. Actually, hard to see here. It actually wasn't even down. So anyway, the first move that you could have seen, okay, here. All right, pre-market it was 120, so it came in, was right there. This was, I think, when I was, I hate to say I was perfect, but I was pretty perfect on this. I bought 117 halves versus the morning low. Had a quick trade, held some, and then I sold some into 119. And then once it broke this spot, I was like, I'm flat for now. And then I didn't trade it the rest of the day. Okay, not saying that I did anything extra special, but a whole lot of range trading, nothing. Okay, so let's go to the 15-minute, the 5-minute chart. Big time gap up, held sideways. If it goes above today's high in the next day or so, maybe we get some continuation. But we'll see how long it takes. Then on IBM, I thought maybe, it could come off lows. And what did it do? Came off lows. Okay. Wasn't expecting much. And, here was, I guess this is your 100-day below the 200-day. And, closed okay. So I would probably expect in the next few sessions it fills this gap. So this won't be holding the market back, or at least didn't today. How could you have played this? Not that easy. What's it called? Let's see. What did it do? Kind of came in quick. Sorry, where's my pen? I guess this would have been my buy right here, and it wouldn't have given you much. And then it came back in. And then your next maybe buy would have been when it went into the gap, which was what price? This price was 150.02. Went from 150.02, it went as high as 151. So not the easiest thing. Maybe if you bought here, and then put a stop in at the low, and then added here when it got above the gap high, it could have been something. But if you tried to really be perfect, that's hard. And now it seems as if, maybe, at some point it fills this gap. So different gaps, right? You had Netflix gap up, IBM gap down. Netflix didn't give you that much upside after the first 15 minutes, where IBM, which gapped down, gave you more upside, if you traded versus the lows. And then you had some collateral moves, right? You had Google. Now Google, stock still has my friggin' number. You have this big channel, right? Very nice channel. And then, finally, it broke above, its resistance. Okay, what was the resistance? This was 819. You had a level here. So for me, I bought some around. No, I didn't get such a good price there. I got 817s. 817 was my price. Through 820, I bought a little more. Sold it the whole way up, and then on the way down in the afternoon, I started buying some back. Okay, am I upset? Not really, but do I have a little bit more than I wanted to have? Yeah. You know what? I figured. Here was your gap up. This is really when the pullback happened, and it showed that it's going to hang in there. So I bought here, okay, and then I think I bought right here when it got above the 820. Sold some, and then I thought I had too little on. Bought a little bit into this first support, which was around the 825, and then I nibbled this entire way down, and I'm probably in tier 2. So if something crazy happens with Google overnight and it's down $10, I'm pissed. Down $5, I'm upset. Down $2, no big deal. Up tomorrow would be nice. So we'll see what happens. You would think, after all this time, getting ready to go, it wouldn't be just another fake out. It's not extended. Here's your 8 and 21 day. It's, hasn't priced in anything except for a bunch of consolidation of a move that came from below. So we'll see what happens here tomorrow. Hopefully, it gets a little bit of a, hopefully it's just not a trap back into the channel, because that would, excuse my French, what that would be? That would suck. Anyway, let's move on. Amazon, was a little weaker yesterday, and still, not acting so great. Broke this level here, broke the 8-day, closed on lows. Tried to hang in there. It's still, I'd say this is still kind of vulnerable. For Amazon at least. Below the 8-day now, not really bouncing as much as with everything else. So maybe it wants to try and test some levels below. We shall see. Here's your next support, the 50-day. To me, I wouldn't go out shorted. I don't do that. But for those of you who've been shorting strength, first time in a while it's been working. Okay, now you'll see what happens tomorrow. Apple, I came in long, sold some strength, and then I don't think it's that big of a deal. But if you're trading it actively, and I want to look at relative strength on the day. Today it kind of, just dribbled lower. So if you're in a big position, maybe you reduced a little bit. If you were trading for the day, looking for relative strength like we saw here, okay, then maybe, you're flat overnight thinking maybe it could, come in and test the 8-day. Last time we had a really big position was on this day, thank goodness, and we got paid into the strength, and now it's, the days are a little choppier. But look how far it's come since this double bottom here. So I guess we'll see what happens with Intel after the close to see whether or not, it's worth something. This morning I talked about Goldman Sachs saying that I don't think that they're going to be able to fail it like JP Morgan, because that's what everyone thinks is going to happen. That's the easy trade, which is never easy. Didn't have such a powerful move, but they couldn't, in the first little bit when they tried to sell it down, if you bought the dip, you did all right. And now this looks as if, it should, after this report, if the market just doesn't get, too beat up, work its way back up to here. Okay, it has done nothing in such a long time. You would think that, this could be more of at least a tailwind versus a headwind. It's been a headwind for so long. Then let's talk about new issue land, ACIA, hovering in there. Still not a heck of a lot of traction. Still working off the pricing of the 100 that broke price. You had a red dog reversal here. Okay, when it went below, came above, and it's still, kind of going sideways. But there's a lot of supply now. The guys are caught. They didn't sell. They didn't sell on this day, thinking that, they wanted to do the right thing, and then now either they got hurt and sold out, or they're still holding and they just want to kind of salvage it. So that's why there could be some resistance coming into, this spot. So maybe there's some room, and just use this as your complete stop. Okay, this is your stop if you're long. This is 87. Then Twilio, Finally announced, you know, the issue, even though people knew it was happening. Stock, you know, good move here, good move there. Stopped most people out here. So now for the first time from this area, you know, it bounced pretty well. Okay, from what I hear, okay, they're pricing it on Thursday after the close. So today is Tuesday. So, you know, we'll see. Maybe they want to push it one more day. I'm a little long it actually. It was strong today, you know, before pricing it. So this way they could price it in the hole. But maybe people think it was being priced tonight, so they were a little skeptical. So when it's not priced tonight or tomorrow, you know, maybe there's a little bit more room. We'll see. So you go back to the chart. I don't think it could do a heck of a lot, but maybe it tries to get back towards 50 or not. You know, in a little bit, we'll see. This coupe, new issue land, not doing a heck of a lot, just I guess holding above, you know, this past little RDR. From here was your sell signal. Now it's, I guess, trying to form some support. We'll see. Chart overall looks not like nothing special. It needs time. NTNX. 2 is, you know, just trying to hang in there. From this 2-day move, it's been dribbling and not really give you any real clue to be long it, except for if you bought weakness. And if you keep buying weakness, you're able to sell some strength until finally, perhaps it breaks, you know, some kind of, you know, pattern here, which it just hasn't really been ready to do yet. LN, haven't really looked at it in a long time. You know, this is when you had your topping tail, and a lot of us got out of it after a really nice trade from here, and now, you know, still not giving you some signals that you need to be that heavy here. If you're in some, because you have a thesis for this stock, okay, but it's below the 8 and 21 day, and it's coming into, you know, almost 2 months of existence or more, right? July, August, September, yeah, like, you know, it's coming into new issue land. We'll see what happens on earnings. Maybe it's the next earnings report will ignite it again, but we shall see. Here was a nice trade from here to here. Here was another nice trade, and now we'll figure out if this spot, you know, builds some kind of pattern to then, you know, take, you know, something out like this, but it's not there yet. Oil was somewhat strong, you know, still hanging above the 200-day. Gold and the miners had their move above their little lower pivot. What do I mean by lower pivot? We talked about it in the morning call this morning. Here was your break of the 50-day, break of the intermediate trend. Here was your retest, and then this is what I call a lower pivot, and you know, poked up above it. So there was a trade there if you were in it, and maybe there's a tiny bit of follow through up to the 21-day. But you know, again, broken sectors are hard to have too much trust in. So I would have, if you were long yesterday and you added today, hopefully just don't be as heavy as you had intraday. And if you have some overnight, you know, here's some resistance. And if that's not resistance, you know, this gap will be huge resistance into here. So here's, you know, clearing the lower pivot. Anyone who was trading for it to break this to the downside might have got squeezed, and now you'll see if those who sold up here, maybe they're playing it for a bounce and trading these ranges. And that's about it. You know, well, what do you say? You know, the movement is not great. There are some things to do during the day. It seems as if, you know, there's not a lot of memory, so you don't want to take too much risk. I would say, you know, the market's more neutral than bearish or neutral than bullish. There are some bullish situations and bearish situations, but overall, you know, the range is still kind of, you know, intact, and we're still, you know, not trending with any force above the 8 and 21 days, so there's not a lot of momentum, so you just have to be careful. You know, you have to have a reason to be in things, and you have to know that if you're in something, you might take some pain, and if the trade changes, you got to get out. And if it doesn't change, try and stay with it and know why you're in it for it to give you some kind of signal that it changed. That's it. What is today? Today's Tuesday. You have Intel. I think it was down a little bit after hours. Yahoo, I think, was up a little bit. You know, next week is really when all the bigger, you know, high beta tech type names will be coming out. So we'll see how things trade from here to there. And I'll see you in the morning. Have a good night.